My name is Brianna, and I'm 33 years old. Christmas dinner was supposed to be warm, predictable, safe. Instead, it became the night my parents looked at me and my 8-year-old son and told us to leave and never return. The words didn't come all at once. They were layered, sharp comments disguised as jokes, long looks across the table, the clink of cutlery that sounded louder every second. The house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon candles, but the air felt cold. My son sat beside me, swinging his legs, whispering that Grandpa's tree lights looked like tiny stars. I smiled at him, even as my chest tightened. I already knew something was wrong the moment my dad poured himself another drink and my mom avoided my eyes. My sister leaned back in her chair, scrolling on her phone, acting bored. The tension built until my dad finally slammed his fork down and said it. How I had ruined the mood. How I always bring problems. How Christmas was supposed to be peaceful. Then my sister chimed in, louder, crueler. You should leave and never return. My son froze. He looked at me like he didn't understand the language anymore. My mom didn't defend us. She sighed and added, Christmas is better without you. Those words hit harder than my dad's anger. They landed in the silence, heavy and final. I felt my son's hand squeeze mine under the table. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I stood up slowly, pushed my chair back and said, Fine. My dad sneered like he'd won something, but I wasn't done. 5 minutes later, everything they thought they knew about me and about that dinner was about to change, even if they didn't realize it yet. I gathered my son's jacket and told him we were leaving. He asked if he'd done something wrong. That nearly broke me. I told him no, that sometimes adults forget how to be kind. As we walked toward the door, my sister laughed and said, Don't come crawling back. My mom didn't stop us. The door shut behind us with a hollow thud that echoed down the hallway. Outside, snow fell softly, like nothing bad had happened at all. My son asked where we were going. I told him we were going somewhere warm. That was true, but not in the way he thought. I buckled him into the car, hands steady, mind racing. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I ignored it. The engine started, and with it, a calm settled over me. I wasn't scared. I wasn't lost. I was finished being small. As I pulled away from my parents' house, memories flashed, years of being told I was difficult, dramatic, ungrateful. Years of swallowing comments so holidays wouldn't be ruined. Years of pretending my son didn't notice. How differently they treated him, compared to my sister's kids. Tonight, they'd said it out loud. Leave and never return. They meant to scare me. They meant to push me back into place. What they didn't know was that I had already planned for this moment. Not tonight specifically, but the possibility of being cut off, dismissed, erased. Because when you grow up learning that love is conditional, you learn to protect yourself quietly. 5 minutes after we left, my phone buzzed again. This time I glanced at it. A message notification stacked with missed calls. I didn't open them, not yet. I pulled into a quiet parking lot near the town square, where a massive Christmas tree stood glowing. My son stared at it in awe. I handed him a hot chocolate from the thermos I kept in the car. He smiled, finally relaxing. That smile reminded me why I'd stayed silent at the table instead of screaming. Why I'd walked out instead of collapsing. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it for peace. But peace doesn't mean weakness. Inside that house, 5 minutes after telling us to leave and never return, my parents were about to realize something was wrong. Not because they missed us emotionally, but because consequences were catching up to them. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that arrives quietly and changes everything. I knew the moment my phone kept buzzing that panic had started to bloom on the other side of that closed door. I took a deep breath, watched snow settle on the windshield, and felt something unfamiliar but welcome rise in my chest. Control. They thought. Christmas was better without me. They were about to learn what that really meant. The calls kept coming as I sat there with my son, steam rising from his hot chocolate, the Christmas lights reflecting in his wide eyes. I didn't answer right away, because for once, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. 5 minutes after leave and never return echoed through that dining room. Reality finally knocked on my parents' door. My dad had gone to his office to grab some paperwork he suddenly realized he needed. That's when he discovered the email. Notification blinking on his computer. The one marked urgent from the bank. My mom heard him shout my name, sharp and panicked, not angry anymore. My sister stopped scrolling. The mood shifted fast. What they didn't know was that the house they were sitting in, the one decorated with garlands and fake smiles, was no longer safe under their feet. Months earlier, I had quietly taken over managing my parents' finances after my dad messed up an investment and nearly lost everything. I did it without praise, without thanks, because family helps family, right? The accounts, the payments, the extensions, they all ran through me. And earlier that afternoon, before dinner, after my mom made another comment about me being a burden, I had finally completed something I'd been putting off, transferring financial control back to them, clean, legal, immediate. They didn't notice then. They only noticed when the safety net disappeared. My phone rang again. This time it was my mom. I answered calmly. She didn't even say hello. She said my name like a plea. She said there was some mistake, that the mortgage alert must be wrong, that the credit freeze didn't make sense. I listened. Then I reminded her gently of her words. Christmas is better without you. Silence swallowed the line. In the background, I heard my dad asking what I was saying, his voice tight. My sister grabbed the phone and hissed that this wasn't funny, that I needed to come back and fix it. That's when I finally spoke clearly. I told them there was nothing to fix. I had simply respected their wish. They told me to leave and never return, so I stopped being involved. No more managing accounts. No more smoothing over late payments. No more protecting them from the consequences of their own decisions. 5 minutes earlier, they'd felt powerful. Now they were begging me to undo it. My son tugged my sleeve and asked if Grandma was mad. I muted the phone and told him no. That sometimes grown-ups get scared when they realize they went too far. When I unmuted, my dad's voice cracked through the speaker. Suddenly soft, suddenly desperate. He said we should come back. That they didn't mean it. That it was just stress. Just words said in the heat of the moment. I looked at the glowing Christmas tree ahead of us and felt the weight of every holiday, where I'd swallowed hurt to keep the peace. I told him something he'd never heard from me before. No, I told him I wasn't doing this to punish them. I was doing it to protect my child and myself. You don't get to tell an 8-year-old to leave and never return and then ask for favors 5 minutes later. Inside that house, Christmas dinner was cold, untouched. The candles still burned, but no one felt festive anymore. My sister cried, saying she hadn't thought I'd actually go. My mom said family doesn't abandon family. I reminded her that abandonment started at the table, not in the parking lot. They asked what it would take to make things right. I said accountability, apologies to my son, boundaries that would be respected, not mocked. And time, a lot of it. They didn't like that answer. They wanted instant forgiveness, instant control restored. But that version of me stayed behind when the door closed. I drove us home that night to our small apartment, where the heater hummed and our little tree leaned slightly to one side. My son helped me hang an ornament, laughing when it fell and bounced. That laughter mattered more than any family tradition built on silence and fear. I tucked him into bed and he asked if we'd still have Christmas. I kissed his forehead and told him yes, our kind. One where no one is told they don't belong. Later, my phone buzzed again with messages promising change, love, regret. I didn't block them. I didn't reply either. Healing doesn't rush just because guilt is loud. They told me to leave and never return during Christmas dinner. 5 minutes later, they were begging me to undo it. But some doors, once closed to protect a child's heart, don't reopen on demand. If this story moved you, if you believe standing up for yourself and your child matters, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that self-respect is the greatest gift we can give ourselves.